Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As I told you last week, I was gonna make more videos when it comes to feminism. So here I am with your favorite mic. I know some of you don't like this, but it's all we got for now. I want to talk about more of the war on femininity and masculinity. Before I get started, I do invite you to like this video, to comment below, and to subscribe, because it really does help me make more videos like this. So without further ado, let's begin. We cannot ask ourselves whether woman is superior or inferior to men, any more than we can ask ourselves whether water is superior or inferior to fire. There can be no doubt that a woman who is perfectly woman is superior to man who is imperfectly man. Just as a farmer who is faithful to his land and performs his work is superior to a king who cannot do his own work. That's a quote by the very controversial Italian philosopher Julius Evola. Now, Evola was a very controversial writer, and he was considered a fascist by many and anti-Christian by others. But first, put aside your preconceived judgments of Evola and see the quote for what it is. Maybe he's touching upon something very true here. Now, I know some men will have some issue with the idea that either side cannot claim to be superior to the other. And some women will also take an issue with that quote. But it is certainly true that we cannot thrive as a society without men, and there can be no society without women. For whatever reason, we have reached this point in our civilization where we are now engaged in a war between the sexes, as if men were the enemies of women and women the enemy of men. Instead of being adversaries, we are supposed to be complementary forces in the creation of societies. Now, this problem and attack on our natural qualities goes for both men and for women. So, what happened? Why are so many women engaging in this war, as if men were their eternal enemies? We have women in extreme feminist groups who consider men to be the problem with the world. And we certainly get the same with men and movements like MGTOW, men who go their own way movement. Both subversions in their own way, both contributing to the destruction of society. And let me be clear, both sides feed into each other, both a side of the same coin. If there were any particular group looking to destroy a nation, a people, and society, this divide and conquer ideology would be certainly useful. George Lucas, a Hungarian Jewish Marxist philosopher, used to say that women are the enemy and that healthy love dies in marriage. Have you noticed that those are the things that are pervasive in our society today? Why have we allowed Marxist ideologies to be so commonplace in Western cultures? I once read somewhere that to destroy a nation, all you need to do is infect it with an ideology that inhibits human procreation, and then simply sit back and wait until they depopulate themselves out of existence. It seems to me that we are currently at war with nature. Have you noticed that? Academia and the famous experts dish out opinions on their newest thoughts on the gender ideology and their newest version of gender ideology. They tell us that it's all subjective, that it's all an artificial construct. But there's so many contradictions. But many of us, even those that superficially embrace these ideologies because of novelty and social pressure and fashion, know deep down that nature is unchangeable. While we go on in our created fantasy land and hate on masculinity and natural femininity, nature is still there. The natural world just sits there with its eternal wisdom, perfectly still, basically waiting for us to return to our senses. When trying to figure out what lifestyle to lead, should you follow the experts and pretentious academics? Or should you look to nature and centuries-old wisdom from our ancestors? I would think the answer is obvious, but I admit I have myself fallen victim to some of the ideologies, at least some of them. That is why propaganda is so necessary to continue pushing our societies into self-destruction. Hollywood comes in and tells us women that we are powerful and amazing when we pursue high-powered careers, that women can do all we want, and that the pinnacle of achievement for women is to pursue a career and to be a CEO and to chase dollars and recognition and fame and to be a boss babe. Just examine the popular TV shows and movies. They all portray women as the high-powered career woman And men, they portray them as sexist douchebags or as endearing dorks and betas. They show the cool, calm, and collected woman in the workplace who could easily outperform any male in her worst day if only these men would stop being so misogynistic. In turn, they portray women who happen to be raising and creating new generations as unfulfilled and bored with their lives. Trust me, as someone that spent most of her life rejecting traditional lifestyle choices when it came to career, this was a hard pill for me to swallow, but it must be talked about. We have all been swallowing the same poison, some in bigger doses than others, but we have all been exposed to this propaganda. What happened to the Grace Kellys and the Audrey Hepburns? They were replaced by the Amy Schumers and the Kim Kardashians. It's so weird to me that after all of the women's liberation movements and women empowerment movements and sexual liberation, our societies are more depressed now than ever. Weird. Both men and women, both genders, report more depression, less fulfillment with their lives, and less satisfaction with their personal relationships. Are we at all surprised? Maybe we know that something has gone incredibly wrong. The feminine and the masculine have become relative. Culture has made those differences meaningless or problematic. But despite a great effort to indoctrinate us into rejecting the natural world, we see more and more resistance every day. There are laws that govern everything in the universe. Despite our attempt to destroy them and subvert them, they're still there. So don't lose hope. Some of the more insane propaganda are simply attempts to demoralize you, to make us think there's nothing left to be done, that the world is completely lost, and that there's nothing for us to do about it. But as the line goes, if all was lost, propaganda would be unnecessary. So keep that in mind before you think, what's the point?